Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's Griever back here, your broken tooth host as always, bringing you guys Akatsuki no Yona, also known as, and sing it with me, kids, sing it with me, Yona of the Dawn. Yona of the Dawn, chapter 203. And if your ears aren't still ringing like mine are from my nasally ass voice, then kudos to you, you get a cookie. Alright, let's get into this one because Chapter 203, honestly, this review isn't going to be nearly as long. For one thing, it was only about 30 pages of chapter, which is not a bad thing because this chapter was very good. I'm already just going to say it. This was a good chapter. Did not see this coming. I don't think anybody saw this coming. I never saw a single person on Reddit, on Discord, on forums, or whatever say or even conceive that this was going to happen. So there's enough to talk about with it only being 30 pages. But the other thing is there's only one real thing to talk about. And that is this character, this Mei Nin character. I'm just going to call her Mei from now on. The lady who, of course, at the end of chapter 202 looked at Yona and said, so who does the Thunder Beast belong to? And you're here, and who do the four dragons belong to? And they're all like, right here, red flag. She's like, but that's, aren't you being a little greedy? Aren't you being a little unfair sort of idea? And we're all kind of like, okay, she's clearly got a little bit of a Gobi vibe going with her. She's also got a little bit of a, I'm rich, I'm powerful, whatever I desire, I get one way or another, whether by, bargaining, whether by stealing, whether by buying out, whatever. That's the way we sort of have that impression of this character. Not saying it's necessarily wrong, but totally 180 here in this chapter. There is one disappointing point about this chapter though. And my minus points is literally because we all hoped. We all prayed, we all hoped, we got down on our knees and said, please, four dragons of legend, please, Darkness Dragon himself, let us see a conversation between soo-won and Hawk. No retainers, no Yona, no nobody around. We need Yona and Hawk. Or not Yona and Hawk. We need soo-won and Hawk to sit down and talk. And with Hawk behind bars, it is legitimately the only real chance that we're going to see in this arc. If that's going to be a possibility. Like half a chapter of a conversation. The only way this is going to happen is with Hawk behind bars. Not saying it is still not possible. But it's getting more unlikely because we really hoped, it was sort of building to that. We sort of figured that would be the case. But anyways, so on to this chapter, though. Soo-won does show up, right? Like, they're talking and stuff. It basically goes right at the beginning of the end of the last chapter, right? And we have Keisha there. And another good thing to note, and I'll get into this before, is that the four dragons are now with Yona, and they clearly seem to be able to come and go as they please, finally. So whether Kisok heard Hawk's request or what have you, apparently the dragons are just like, no, we're seeing Yona and you're not separating us anymore, because later on in this chapter we also see them together, all of them in Yona's room. Yona is no longer isolated. This is great because Yona isolated is not the Yona that we all like. I am going to go on that line. How's that? Her being left alone with her thoughts seems to not necessarily be a great thing for Yona as a character. Now that might be in and of itself good character development, showcasing that some people, if the greatest leaders in the world might be powerless and depressed and filled with self-doubt if they don't have a good support system around them. So I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing in realm of her character or it's bad writing in that respect. I mean, I didn't like the direction they took Yona's character, but here I'm just glad that we're sort of done with that, because I didn't care for it. I know that you guys know this, so this is one really good thing. It seems in this chapter, and it doesn't really seem to be spoken of, we're just supposed to, it's suggested that the dragons can now come and go as they see fit. And I'm like, finally, because how long were they going to take this lying down? They just weren't. And Keisha, at the beginning of the chapter, brings up, like, are you, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, you can't touch our princess. Like, what do you mean she's greedy? She's not the king and she has the four dragons. He's like, that's irrelevant. To us, Yona is our sovereign. She is our king. Doesn't matter. Like, and in all honesty, Keisha's got more of a point than first meets the eye. You have to think about this, because how many kings, even in this day and age, in 2021, how many kings are there? There's more than one. So being a king does not automatically get you XYZ just because you're a king. There are multiple kings. So which king gets the 4 dragons? Yeah, like, legitimately, I know that's not what they were going for, but I was just kind of like, oh, so you're not a king. But king of what? By that logic, the king of the island to the south that we've never heard of has a claim on the 4 dragons. Because, well, I'm a king. King's supposed to have the 4 dragons. Like, realistically, Keisha's got a serious point. It's like, it doesn't matter who's king of what country, what kingdom, what castle. Yona is our king, regardless whether she owns an empire or one little shack of a house. It doesn't matter, right? So I really like that. He points out, like, Keisha's confused. He's like, what are you talking about? What do you mean she's not a king? She's our king, and that's all that counts. So that's all that matters. And I was like, all right, good on Keisha, good on Keisha. We haven't seen enough of Keisha lately. We haven't seen enough of all of our favorite characters lately. And then we get into the idea, like, soo-won shows up and et cetera, and we see him shocked by something like she seems to be the mistress of the emperor and yada, yada, yada. And she seems to, as we know, she's a bit of a vile woman and all that fun jazz, but she seems to play the flirt. She plays all her parts extremely well, but she also manages to get after, and the one time that we have Kiso actually do something that I think the entire fan base collectively went, yeah, Kisok! The one time he's done, in 203 chapters of this manga, the one time he's done something, slap. Oh, I saw a fly and I completely missed. My apologies. Obvious lie. He says it so straight-faced. Nobody cares. It was awesome. But either way, May does end up a chance. Like, basically, Yona and the 4 dragons aren't her concern anymore. And she's focused on the King soo-won. Oh, you're so handsome, your majesty, yada, yada, yada. And we're thinking, okay, what direction is this going to go? Then she whispers something to him. And soo-won, boom, shock face, right? Meets them later in the garden. As I said, the transition that I already talked about with the dragons and Yona clearly in the room. And he's like, what's wrong, princess? Well, I thought, like, that was really shocking to see, like, soo-won make that expression. Like, it takes a lot to get this guy to lose his composure, to lose his cool, right? So what did he say? I was under the impression it was going to be the Crimson Dragon illness, but I thought that, okay, what did she say? And we're not going to know for an extended number of chapters. Like, we might not even get that until later on this year, you know, because it's a monthly series and such. So I was like, okay, how long are they going to drag this out? What was said? What was said? Is that going to be the thing? No. They answer it right away. And you know what? I'm glad for that. I'm glad for it because all the theories and stuff, when it was so basic, we all could assume what would make soo-won go, boom. They know about the illness. An outsider knows about the Crimson Dragon illness. It's like, okay, so how could someone from South Kai know about this, right? So Yona and jae-ha, of course, takes Yona, and it was a comedic scene. The dragons all get on, like, yeah, we're curious too. It's like, for the last time, I can't take everybody. You guys know this. It's hard enough carrying Hawk with that insane weight and weapon, you know. So, anyways, so they actually go. So Yona and jae-ha are listening in on this. So Yona is privy to this conversation, though it doesn't seem that soo-won is aware of this. And I don't think that the bodyguard guy, I keep forgetting his name, begins with an H, Hyori is definitely not going to be able to attack with jae-ha there. This dude might be on par with Hawk and soo-won and some of the dragons, but jae-ha is also, like, really up there. I don't think that he'd be able to, unless he sneak attacked. I think jae-ha could give him a fight. So regardless how powerful you might want to rank this guy, so I don't think anything like bad is going to happen with them eavesdropping like that, because you know he's around. You know he's following soo-won everywhere, shadowing him. So he's definitely around. He's probably aware that they're there, but you know it's not his place to do or say anything, right? So they talk about the Crimson Dragon illness. It's like, okay, how did you know about this, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, because I have it too. And we're like, to what? You know, and it's like, well, okay, where did this bitch come from, right? Like, how? She's from South Kai, and that's what soo-won shocked by. He's like, how is that possible? It's taboo, like you can't leave, etc., etc. And she's like, is it so shocking? I'm sure there's still a couple of families residing around here. And he's like, yeah, but like they were an isolated village even in the time of my grandmother and stuff. Like they were an isolated village. Sure, there were multiple families, multiple people, and they were all related and such, but that they keep to themselves. It's taboo to leave. You're not supposed to leave. My mother sort of broke that code, and look at what happened to everybody. So it's not exactly something that you would assume would happen, especially outside of the Koka kingdom. But as May points out here, she goes, well, and you know what? This actually isn't completely like, we don't know the history. Sure, it's taboo to leave, but it doesn't mean that multiple people haven't left, right? So this is entirely plausible. It doesn't break any plot. It's not a plot hole or any writing problem. This is actually really good. I don't think us as a fan base, even since the time of the flashback or before this, have considered this possibility, that there were others like yon-hi who left the village. And they still carry the Crimson Dragon blood and the bloodline, and they still carry the illness along with them. It's entirely possible, and it makes a lot of sense. This is really interesting because now we're sort of getting a bit of a retrospect here. We're getting yon-hi's attitude in a more direct, attacking version rather than defensive version from the flashback, because we're seeing a little bit of the parallels there. Because this woman said, I saw my father do it. I saw my older brother succumb to it. Like, I don't know. Apparently it is, yes, we're not supposed to leave the village, but I was a young age. I have no idea. Like the father must have took, either left the village and then found a woman in South Kai, and, because she was like, I was raised, she says raised, I don't think she said born, but it's entirely possible she was born in South Kai, and she was just told the stories by her father. But her older brother died from it painfully, her father died from it painfully, and now she is next. So she's bitter about this, right? And then she says, and here's where the information, and this is going to be really interesting. Then she claims that, like, she wants the four dragons, etc., etc., and she's like, I was so happy to hear that one of our bloodline, because it was always, like, we suffer because one day, like, the four dragons are going to protect us. Like, I was told we're divine blood, we're special, because of our bloodline, we are so special. And we've seen this travesty in multiple forms of fiction, and especially manga, where somebody thinks it's their birthright, their bloodline, they're the ones who belong. I mean, even Vegeta has this trait. It can be handled well, and I'm not saying this is a negative for her character, because this is something that's been done before. Vegeta, I am a prince of all Saiyans. The classic thing. I have the blood of a prince. I Saiyan pride, etc. I can't be beat by lower class warriors. I can't be beat by anybody. I'm a prince. I'm a king. That's his thing, all based on the fact that he was born in a royal bloodline. That's all Vegeta's about. So, in the same breath here, she has the same thing. She was told her entire life, we have the blood of kings, we have the blood of the dragons, we have divine protectors, they're going to protect us, etc., etc. There's just a time and a place, etc. And she didn't seem bitter about the fact that soo-won ascended to the throne of Koka Kingdom, because she said, I was overjoyed to hear that you had finally ascended. Finally, all our suffering, all our village and our family's suffering has paid off. Because they're relatives distantly, but they're clearly relatives. So finally, this is all paid off. But then I get here, and I heard rumors beforehand, and through the grapevine, I heard of this red-headed woman protected by the four dragons, not the king. A red-headed princess of what nation, of where? And this is where her information ends. See, this is really interesting. She'd still be angry about this, but she clearly doesn't know that Yona is the true successor of Koka Kingdom's throne. Soo-won is not. Thus, there might be a difference in a sort of idea, right? It'd be a different battle, all said and done. But it's very interesting because she's like, this red-headed woman, who is that? A woman from God knows where, she gets the four dragons while I suffer, while, it's an anvil pounding in my head with a hammer, just bang, bang, bang. No. And it's like you ascended, aren't you the king? You should have the four dragons. I should have the four dragons, not this random woman with no connection, with no suffering that they have suffered. Now, you can sympathize, or you can at least empathize with this point, right? Because Yona, it is true, Yona does not suffer. in that regard. She has suffered, but she hasn't suffered due to this disease, this genetic disease that is rampant throughout their families, all with the prayer that they would one day be protected. But once again, who decided that? As Eskimo would say, who decided that? Who told them that the four dragons were their protectors? Somebody sort of assumed it, and it went forward. Now, I could be wrong about this, but I don't remember anybody promising anything. I don't remember Zeno coming out and saying, oh yeah, our job that King Hiryu, before he died, said, protect my bloodline forevermore. That's not their job. That was never a thing. The village, the descendants of King Hiryu, just like the fire tribe was all, I'm crazy. I forget his name, but the original leader of the fire tribe at the beginning of the series was all like, we have the divine blood of the four tribes. We are actually the fire tribe. We have the divine blood. They place so much emphasis on that to make themselves feel special. And this village, over time, clearly made themselves believe that they suffer for a reason. Right? That they suffer due to the fact that, yes, but one day XYZ, they believed this fable, this fairy tale, this prophecy that had no merit and no belief system whatsoever, and now it's come back to bite them, because now we have people like May here who believe that, like, when the four dragons finally show themselves, they're supposed to protect soo-won, they're supposed to protect me. They're not supposed to protect some random woman with no title, with no nothing, with no lands, with no kingdom. That makes no sense to her, right? So this was super interesting because it really made this whole story. Now we have a totally new layer that I didn't even see coming. I don't think a lot of us saw this coming, and I really, really enjoyed this. The other thing is, she says again, like, someone says, well, what do you want me to do about it? It's like at the end of the day, what would you like me to do? Now May comes down here. And once again, remember, she does not know. She does not know that Yona is supposed to be the king or the queen in this regard, right? And soo-won, once again, soo-won could have been king, married Yona, problem solved. As Hawk even gave him the blessing, right? But Yona should have been queen, so she clearly doesn't know that based on what she was saying, because she said a red-haired woman from God knows where sort of idea. It's like, But yeah, it's really interesting because she says she wants the dragons, she wants the Thunder Beasts. Now, it's curious that she says she wants the Thunder Beasts. She clearly doesn't. Now she has a level of resentment towards Yona specifically. Before it was about, okay, I deserve the divine protection of the dragons due to my suffering, right? Or whatever. But now she feels it, as she said, she actually maintained rather good composure in front of Yona, because now she has a deep resentment, if not outright hatred, for Yona based on what she was raised to believe. And then Yona gets all her perks in her eyes, right? And now she's here looking at this like, and also, I want the Thunder Beast too. She wants to strip this girl of everything because she got something, for no matter how little amount of time, she got something that was never hers. And she's been reaping the benefits, and I want it all, and I want compensation almost. I want her to suffer now, and I want to take everything from her because she never should have had it in the first place. That seems to be her mindset right now. You can argue that in the comment section down below, but that seems to be the case, because why else would she want the Thunder Beast? She wants the Thunder Beast because Yona has her dragons, or her family's dragons in her mind, right? So then she tells soo-won, like, I want the dragons, I want the Thunder Beast. If you give me these things, I will, like, open the gates, basically. You will win the war. She goes, I will be a spy. I will give you all the top secret information I can gather. I'm a mistress. I'm the chief mistress of the emperor. I have ears and eyes everywhere. I can do this. It's like, Someone's like, yeah, okay. And there was one translation that said, like, I see, sounds good. And then I was like, wait, what? But then she gave this whole, like, shocked face. So it didn't make a whole lot of sense. Then it was later on that the translation was a little off. He says basically something along the lines of, oh, sounds good, but I'll pass anyways. Or something along the lines of, oh, thank you, but no. So he's not going to betray Yona. He's not going to even attempt that. Soo-won knows he can't pull that off. Soo-won knows, even if he wanted to, even if he thought that was a good idea, he knows there's no way to separate the dragons from Yona. He just knows it's not. Like, the fact that they kept them separated this long in the same castle is a feat in itself. You think you're actually going to strip them away entirely? Forget it. Soo-won knows this, but also, as he points out at the end of the chapter, dumbfounded man, it's like, you see, I dislike the Crimson Dragon King. I want nothing to do with the Crimson Dragon King. I don't want anything to do with the dragons. I don't want anything to do with the legacy. Don't want anything to do with the bloodline. I'm just doing what I'm doing for ABC. So, of course, Soo-won flipping the situation around entirely. I love that. I love that we're still not seeing Soo-won in a weekend. He just wanted to know, how does she know about the Crimson Dragon illness? How did that reach the ears of someone from another country? Now he's got his info. Now he understands how she knows. He's back to composure. He's like, okay, I didn't know that. Now I know that. Okay, we're good. Yeah, no, I'm not going along with your plans. That's all right. Because she's all like, and then together, my brother, we shall take the 4 dragons, and we shall have all the power, and we shall have everything. World domination to protect the world from devastation. Unite all peoples within our nation. You know, that's literally what she's going on about. And he's like, I see. Yeah, no. And just shut down. That's the end of the chapter. Now, once again, there's a lot to go into, and I already did pretty much, I think, cover just about everything. But there was a lot to cover in her character and how she feels about this. Once again, as I said, somebody somewhere along the line, this tribe, this village of Crimson Dragon descendants believed that they suffered for a reason. Somebody had to make this up. Somebody had to justify their suffering to the kids, to the elderly, to the uncles, to everybody. And at some point, it became this thing that we suffer for the day to wait. We do this so that one day we can have a reunited Koka Kingdom, a united front with peace and prosperity, with the second coming of King Hiryu. One day the 4 dragons will come for us. Everything will be fine. We'll be cured. Whatever they were told, they made it up themselves, because we haven't really heard, like, Zeno didn't come out and say that. And as I said, all the flashbacks we saw, and with Yona being the literal second coming, the reincarnation of King Hiryu, it's not something, you know, that's not exactly something that they believe. Now, once again, we also have Zeno and Soo-won with their... Zeno claims, and we don't know this, but Zeno claims he didn't have the boom, boom, bang. Now, once again, that could be because he's a first-generation dragon, and he was around the... Oh, focus, camera. Focus. Come on. Focus. There we go. It could be because he's a first-generation dragon, so it's only the descendants dragons that had the da-doom feeling, you know, that Yona gave because he was around King Hiryu. So it's hard to say why that was, but he was very, remember, he had that moment with Soo-won and stuff, so we don't know. Does he just look a lot like, we've already seen King Hiryu? I would argue they have a similar demeanor, or a similar look, but that shouldn't have shocked him so badly. So it's curious to find out how this all goes down. Zeno still has more information he's not telling us, but maybe he just recognized this is a member of the bloodline. It could be as simple as that, because he already knew about the Crimson Dragon illness. So... but yeah, so there's a lot there. She clearly doesn't have all the information, as I said, because she doesn't know that Yona is supposed to be. Now, this would not... she'd still want the dragon. She'd still want all this. And she'd still have the same sort of mindset. But she would lose sort of some stuff, because she'd be like, okay, so this woman, the queen, gets the dragons. Okay, like, so there's a bit of misinformation there that on her side... But it would still, at the end of the day, it wouldn't make her feel any better, because in her mind, Yona, she doesn't clearly know about the reincarnation theory. She doesn't know about how the dragons operate. She doesn't know any of this. So, and Race of the South Kai, she was only told what she was told by her father, who left a village and just kept saying, "You're special. You're special. You're special." So, what have you? Who knows? I thought this was a great chapter. I thought it gave us a totally new dynamic that I wasn't expecting. And this is still going to be like a 30-minute review at the end, even though I said it was going to be short. But there was a lot really to unpack in that last little section with all of her demands to soo-won and everything that she believes and how she perceives everything. It's very interesting. Either way, what did you guys think? Like, comment, and subscribe as always. And don't forget, we are trying to get to 500 subscribers. Not 300 subscribers, not 400 subscribers, but 500 subscribers in the month of March, so that a 500 milestone video will be out in the first week of April. Voted on by you guys. Yes, you guys will decide. There'll be a poll, there'll be a video, there'll be something that you guys can vote on and discuss what. And the popular vote, of course, democracy rules, and democracy will win this one on what type of content the 500 milestone video will be about. So let's get us to 500 subscribers in March. Let's go. Like, comment, subscribe. I already said that. Drink responsibly as always, and I'm looking really, really forward to chapter 204 of Yona. Once again, the Hawk and soo-won talk can still happen. Hawk is still behind bars. This can still be a possibility. Let's hope for the best, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you have a great weekend. See you next time.